Peace, family. This is the Drapetomaniac podcast, and I am your host, the HDIC, Head Drapetomaniac in Charge, Ayapo Yapa. And we're here to have conversations on how to get off this plantation on Doaya Media. I want to wish you all a happy new year and wish you all that this year be the year of your liberation. And if not the year of your liberation, then at least the start of it. Here on the Drapetomaniac podcast, when I talk about separating, I know that I talk about materialism a lot. And in my opinion, materialism is one of the things that is used to hold us into this system. And I think that one of the first steps to separating is to let go of the materialism that binds us, the materialism that ties us to this system. It's like we're handcuffed to it because we're trying to carry junk or because we're trying to attain junk, and things. There's nothing wrong with having things. I like nice things. Everyone wants to have nice things. However, like I'm always saying, I need a car, but I don't need to have a Bentley. I need a house, but I don't need to have a mansion. I need clothes, but they don't all have to have designer labels on them. These are the things that we're taught and have pounded into us all day long, every day, from the time that we have any kind of consciousness to know what's going on. It's just like the whole marketing to children thing. You're teaching children from this young age. You're just conditioning them to just worship things, to feel like they need things bigger, better, newer, faster, brighter, and so on. When actually you just need what you need to live. And the important things in life, and it's cliche, but it's true, the important things in life, money can't buy. Relationship, friendship, enjoying a nice walk, enjoying a walk on the beach or sitting and reading a book. It doesn't cost anything. Yeah, it might cost something to get the book, but it's not going to cost you $1 million or $10,000. We have black people chasing the American dream without even understanding that the entire thing is a trick bag, that the entire thing is a construct that we should be fighting to get away from instead of running toward it and seeking to embrace it. What happens when we become fixated on money and fixated on material possessions and so on, we stop focusing on who we are. We stop focusing on the worth of the person and attaching that worth to what it is they have or don't have. And when we look at each other for companionship or as mates, or, husbands or wives or friends or anything, we always fall back to looking at what the person is worth materially, what this person is worth in money and so on. I'm not saying that having money isn't important. I'm not saying that being able to support yourself and your family isn't important. I'm not saying that by any stretch of the imagination. What I am saying is if you're fixated upon, you have to have a 2020 Corvette, or you have to have a house that has at least 3 bathrooms and costs between $1.5 and $2 million or up, or you have to be able to buy me these kind of clothes, or we have to be able to go to these type of restaurants and eat and so on. What you're doing is taking all the focus off of the worth of the person and tying yourself into a system that is designed as a trick bag to keep you in it. At the same time, it's constantly working against you. I'm writing a paper right now, or writing an article right now for Unapologetically Pro-Black magazine, and it is about materialism, of course, but it's about the way that it's used against us and why it was created in the way that it was created, or the system was created in the way that it was created. We have a people who saw at the beginning that they could not compete with black people intellectually, artistically, mathematically, definitely in sports and in music and so on. And they were like, well, how do we get above these people because we can't compete with them in any way except in terms of brutality. Now that they excel in, and they can definitely, and they definitely come in with violence. They come in with violence as their first tool, but also there's another tool that they decided to use. And let me clarify something. When I say violence, when you're going against someone who you can't compete with physically, then you create apparatus that will, will level the field. Okay. And so, and not only, let's go further than that. Not only are you going to come up with apparatus that will level the field, you're going to come up with apparatus that is going to give you an advantage over them. Now, some would say that that's clever or that's smart or whatever. But what I'm saying is that all it is to me is brutality and violence. But there's something else that goes along with that. If you don't want to try to attack someone with violence, you can do like the Japanese did. Because I guarantee you, they never forgave the United States for Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And I think it's laughable that the United States would even think for a moment that they let that, I was going to say a swear, but they let that stuff go. They never let it go. But what they did was through technology, through counterfeiting or making knockoffs of different things, through selling debt, through lending, and through buying, parts of the country, different parts of the country, they're basically taking over the United States without firing a shot. My point is that when white people decided, we'll keep going on these violent campaigns, but we also need to do something that's going to keep us on top and that we can maintain, because there's just so long that you can just fight. You get tired. It's not about giving the other side a break or anything like that. It's just that you just freaking get tired of fighting and so on. So what you do is you create a system that you can control and then make it so that everybody else comes under that system. And then while you're controlling it, you shut them out of it. And the easiest way to do that is by controlling finances or controlling how a person eats, how a person gets their water, how they sleep, basically controlling the flow of what people have materially and making that material gain something important to them. After you do that, then you make sure that you can get everything that you need materially while shutting the other people out of being able to get what it is that they need and what they desire. Like me looking at someone saying, wow, I see you have a car there, but you're not anybody unless you have an Aston Martin. And you spend decade after decade teaching this person that if they don't have an Aston Martin, then they haven't made it. And then as soon as they do get an Aston Martin, that means that they've made it. That means that they're somebody. But the thing is, I own the Aston Martin dealership. I own the only Aston Martin dealership. And I won't sell you one. But I do I'll tell you what. If you come back every day at 2:00, then I'll give you a chance to purchase one. And then I put obstacles in your way to make it so that you always get there after 2. Always. Making it seem like you have a chance to get there. And eventually, as the word spreads, and I have thousands of people trying to make it to my dealership at 2:00, I'm putting all these obstacles in their way to keep them from getting there. And then I let one person come in and buy one, and then let them drive that past you. And every day while you're trying to get, there, you're watching them drive around your neighborhood with this Aston Martin, and everybody just has nothing but good things to say about them. They get to sit in the best places and, the best seats in the restaurant or tables at the restaurant. They get treated like royalty. They're treated like they're somebody. because they have this Aston Martin. And you're like, well, I want to be treated like that. So you keep trying to get to my dealership at 2:00 every day. The secret is that I don't want you to have an Aston Martin. I have what I need, but all the time that you're spending and the energy that you're expending, using, getting on the bus, dressing nicely, so on, everything that you're doing. But what you don't know is that I own stock in the bus company. I own stock in the company that prints the bus tickets. I own stock in the company that makes your shoes that you use to go to the bus stop. I own stock in the company that created the benches that you sit on waiting for the bus. I own stock in the place that makes the buses. In other words, as you're trying to get to my dealership to buy the Aston Martin, you're already paying me. All these people are already paying me. And just so that you don't stop, every now and then I will let someone in so that they can buy one and drive it around your neighborhood so that and be treated like royalty, so that keeps you coming and keeps you trying. Whereas at some point, some of you would just say, wait a minute, I don't need an Aston Martin. I have a nice car. I have a car that gets me from point A to point B, and I am somebody. I don't need anyone to tell me I'm somebody. I already know I'm somebody. You know what materialism does to a person? Materialism and the way that and the trick bag of this system is what makes it so that you can have a room of 20 grown men at the height of their physical prowess, muscle bound, ripped, and some of them just big, huge men, stand in a room and have some little old man in a wheelchair telling them what they can and can't do. That's what materialism does to you. And if you don't know what I'm talking about like sports teams where you have these teams of men and women who are just at the black men and black women who are at the height of their physical prowess. And then you have some little old man with 1 foot in the grave and the other one on a banana peel. And they're telling you what you can and can't do. And you say, yes, sir. That is what materialism does to you. That is what chasing that carrot does to you. When you aren't chasing that carrot, that takes some of the power away from those who seek to have power over you because you don't care. You can't be manipulated in that way. Now, there are many different ways that we're connected to this system. That's just one, but it's an important one. And after you cut yourself away from that, then you go on to the next thing and cut yourself away from that. And then after you cut yourself away from that, you cut yourself away from that. And the point of the Drake the Maniac podcast is to talk about the different ways that we are connected and the ways to cut away. Because the first thought, again, that pops into people's mind is, well, I can't separate because I have to live in the United States. Where do I go? Where would I go? Where could I go? I don't have a lot of money. So that's very true. But you don't have to travel out of the country to separate. Because when it comes to separating in the way that I'm talking about it, separating just means separating from the influences that cause you to have to do things that you don't want to do or force you to do. Force you to do things that you don't want to do and make it so that you can't do the things that you want to do. There's like all these different beefs going on in social media. And I'm not going to go into it right now because we all know what's going on. At least those who are in these circles know what's going on. But what I want to call attention to is something that, even if it's not about this bigger beef, when we're talking to each other, when black people are talking to other black people, what is one of the biggest insults that we try to use against each other? You know, there are different ones. We talk about the way people look or the way they speak or so on. But what's one of the main things that black people say to each other? especially black men, say to each other when they're trying to insult the other one. They'll call him a broke nigger. So understand this. Once you go there, and you use that terminology or use that as the standard for degrading someone or speaking disparagingly about someone, you have placed yourself squarely in the white man's camp, because that is their entire modus operandi. You understand? Their whole thing is about degrading you because you don't have whatever materially, because they know that they can't outdo you except in terms of money and violence. I'll always add that, and violence. But just when it comes to older people, when it comes to people who don't want to fight, and I'm talking about white people, don't want to fight and don't want to engage in that way, they use money or material possessions to make you feel like you're less than them, or use it to threaten you. Come on. How many of you have been on a job where the go-to of the boss or the supervisor was, you're going to lose your job. If you keep doing this, you're going to lose your job. If you keep speaking up, you're going to lose your job. They're threatening you using money. I mean, it's that simple. They're threatening you using money. They're basically saying, I'll take your money away from you, or I'll make it so you don't have money. And if you don't have money, and understand, this is what the whole thing is saying. If you don't have money, then you're not gonna have any respect. You'll lose what you have. You might lose your relationships, your marriage, your children, whatever. You could lose everything, and you'll be in a soup kitchen on a soup line, or in a homeless shelter, and you'll be a pariah because you don't have money. As I said before, I am in no way saying that you don't need money. I'm not in any way saying that a man especially shouldn't be able to take care of himself and his family. What I am saying is that if we take the focus off of people who are driving around in a Mercedes, a brand new Mercedes, or some kind of a sports car or foreign car, or wearing Armani suits and so on. I don't wear suits anymore because they're European. But if I did wear suits, I don't need to wear an Armani. It's just clothes. And that whole thing about broke nigger puts you squarely in the white man's camp, because now you're speaking his language against our people. In addition to using the N-word, you're speaking their language against your own people. And these are people who are supposed to be pro-black. Now, a lot of them will deny that they're pro-black, but whether they admit they're pro-black or they deny they're pro-black or whatever, their rhetoric is pro-black. So don't give that kind of rhetoric. So if you're using that kind of rhetoric, then I side-eye you the moment that you use the N-word against your brother or your sister. And there again, once you release yourself, or once you cut yourself off from this consumer mindset, from this, I have to have the newest, biggest, brightest, best, and I have to keep up with the Joneses, then that's when you will start to find yourself moving away from this system and getting off the plantation. Or at the very least, at least until you're off the plantation, you're on the plantation, but dealing with it on your terms. On your terms. I want to thank all of you who listen to the Drake the Maniac podcast. I want to thank you, all of you who read the magazine, who go to the Dwyer Media site and check it out. There's so much there for our people. The next issue of Up Magazine, Unapologetically Pro-Black Magazine, will be out on February 1st. We're here working hard on it, and we're working hard for you. Be sure and visit the Dwyer Media store, where you can get your pro-black gear and support our efforts, support what we do, because everything that me and my beautiful wife Angela do is because We are trying to support our community. We're trying to help our community and to continue to uplift the pro-black community. We are proudly pro-black. And I want to give a couple shout-outs. I would give a shout-out to the Radical Sister, Sister Ajali. By all means, visit her YouTube channel. She talks about Fukushima and the radiation that is a threat to all of us. And I guarantee you, while we're all out here, arguing among ourselves. We're fighting basically to see who's going to be the captain of the Titanic while it's sinking. There are bigger things to worry about, believe it or not. And the radiation that threatens us all is one of them. So visit Sister Ajali. Be sure and catch Sister Lashee for you. She is she is one of the most brilliant people that I've heard on YouTube. I don't agree with everything that she says or every conclusion she comes to, but what she says, the things that she says and the way she breaks them down are very accessible and well defended. And like I said, sometimes I come to the same conclusions that she does about things, and sometimes I don't. But even when I don't, afterward, I still understand what it is that she's saying and why she's saying it. So, also, Psychopathist, that brother, you just have to hear him. He says what he means, and he means what he says. And Psychopathist is pro-black to his bones. He is pro-black, and he is unapologetically pro-black and doesn't mind saying so. All three have channels also on Doaya Media. Psychopathist is Psychopathist Unleashed. The Radical Sister is the Radical Sister Uncensored. And Lashee for You is Lashee for You Declassified. So you can come to those channels to hear their commentary. And it is not censored. It's what they have to say, and they can say it the way they want to say it without having to worry about some community guidelines that are going to pull it down. And then there's also my own channel, Ayapo Yapa, Deep Thoughts. I'm doing my very best not to upload anything to YouTube. Even though this shows up on YouTube, it's actually on the Doaya Media site, on the Drake the Maniac podcast within the Doaya Media site. And it can be listened to there. It'll take you to Spreaker. But as far as my video content goes, that gets uploaded to the to Doaya Media, and UPTV is where you'll find that. Also, Sister Angela has Be Fabulous You, and her channel isn't set up yet, but is coming soon. So that's all I have to say. I wanted to give those shout outs and just tell all of you to have the best of New Year's and work your way off this plantation. Even if you don't agree with everything I say, just consider it. And with that said, this is the Drake the Maniac podcast. I am the HDIC, the head Drake the Maniac in charge. Ayapo Yapa. And I will see you on the run.